All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss with another podcast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Los Angeles Rams 27, Minnesota Vikings 9. Last night, Monday Night Football, as we complete the wild card round. I'm going to touch on that real quick and discuss the schedule for next week as well. And next week really is the best week of football the entire season. With the divisional round games, and then after that you're just down to the championship games and of course the Super Bowl, so we're going to discuss that shortly. But obviously last night, revisiting what I had said at the end of the regular season about Sam Darnold and the Vikings, the whole backstory here is what were the Vikings going to do this coming off season when it came to Sam Darnold, who had just an unbelievable, out of the blue, all-pro, even MVP worthy season, and injured first round pick JJ McCarthy. What was the setup going to be for 2025? Were they going to re-sign Darnold coming off just an unbelievable season, got them to the playoffs after losing McCarthy? Or were they going to turn to the cost-effective McCarthy with Darnold now in line for a big contract? And I said, with going into that season finale against Detroit, winner takes the NFC North, and then, of course, the playoff game. I said if Darnold stinks it up in both of those games, meaning the game against Detroit and then the wild card matchup against the Rams, then I truly believe that the Vikings, who are one of the smartest organizations in football behind their GM coach tandem, will hand the reins to McCarthy and let Darnold leave as a free agent and just sell, basically not sell high, but move on off such a big season, probably unable to replicate that going forward. And that's what I ultimately think now is going to happen after witnessing what happened last night. So not only was Darnold horrendous against the Detroit Lions in Week 18 to finish out the regular season, costing the Vikings the opportunity to play a home playoff game, but he was terrible again last night. And the common theme in both of these games with Darnold was that his throws continued to sail high. I don't know if he's got like the yips all of a sudden, but his throws continue to sail high. He's missing guys left and right. And altogether last night, 25 of 40, one touchdown pass, 245 yards, threw an interception in this one, and only completed 5 passes to Justin Jefferson and 3 to Jordan Addison against a Rams defense that came into these playoffs as the worst statistical defense of all the playoff teams. And Darnold couldn't do anything. TJ Hawkinson was the leading receiver, 5 for 64. They got nothing from Aaron Jones, 13 for 48 on the ground. And like I said, they're going to get right to work on this in terms of what they're going to decide to do going forward. But honestly, I believe in the Kevin O'Connell coaching acumen. He has more than proven himself as a quarterback whisperer. I really do truly believe now that they're going to let Darnold walk as a free agent. And the Raiders are going to be there with open arms. I mean, can't you just see that the Raiders, who are as irrelevant as it gets in the entire NFL when it comes to the quarterback position with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and having won a couple of games at the end of the season, costing them the opportunity to draft Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward unless they trade up. I could totally see the Raiders handing Sam Darnold a 3-year contract at a very pricey sum. But it's not going to be in Minnesota. That's my thinking there, and I think McCarthy will be under center in Week 1. And even like the Giants, or I was going to say the Jets, but I don't even see that happening. The Saints can't cut Derek Carr because they're going to get hit with a $50 million salary cap penalty if they do so, I don't think that he's going to end up there. But they have, to me, seeing how poorly Darnold played when the stakes were at their highest, I cannot see them bringing Darnold back for next season when they have J.J. McCarthy on a cost-effective contract for the next couple of years. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but seeing how poorly he's played the last couple of weeks, a smart organization like Minnesota, I think they're going to move on from him. And I wouldn't be shocked. And if you're a Vikings fan, let me know what you think. Post in the comments below what you think they should do going forward. Now, the flip side here is the Rams. Very, very impressive outing, both offensively and defensively. Like, this is arguably one of the greatest one of the best coach teams in the NFL for years. Like Sean McVay, this team looked like they had reached the cliff. They won the Super Bowl, and then you had that sense that okay, all the salary cap issues and not having any first round draft picks for years, it appeared, and Stafford got hurt. It appeared that they had reached that cliff. And they were about to enter into a long rebuilding process, because they didn't have any first-round picks for the longest time. But they make the playoffs last year. They make the playoffs again this year, and they win a playoff game, right? 27-9. This is a really impressive game. Matthew Stafford, far from finished, 19-27, 209 yards. This really was more or less they came out throwing quite often. And if anybody took the Puka Nacua over 7.5 receptions, like it looked good early on. Nacua was catching everything initially in the first drive. I think he had 3 or 4 catches on the first drive alone. And then they kind of went quiet. This was more of a defensive stand here. Leading receiver for the Rams was Tyler Higbee, 5 for 58. Nacua went 5 for 44. And how about Cooper Kupp again? Like 1 catch for 29 yards. I mean, what is going on with Cooper Kupp? Like 1 catch in his last game. Coming into this one, 1 catch in this one. He looked good earlier in the season when he was on the field. He had a couple of 20-plus fantasy point games, but he's been completely absent from the lineup, from a statistical point, I should say, not the lineup. And Puka Nacua clearly is the top guy. This is something we need to remember for next year. Like Cooper Kupp is a huge name, but he's going to be 33, I believe, or 32 next year. He just looks like he has now lost a step, and he is taking a firm back seat to Puka Nacua. So I'm firmly out on him. And even Puka Nacua, like he's going to go in that late first round, early second round tier next year. I'm very leery of him as well. Like he can't stay healthy. The problem with Nacua, why he was dropped to the 5th round in the draft, is because he couldn't stay healthy in college, and he hasn't really stayed healthy in the NFL either. He missed some time this year with injury. He's always perpetually banged up. Seems like he's always questionable, or he's got something going on. So Nacua is another guy that's like a potential bomb in the draft, early in the draft for next season. But that's for another day. Kyren Williams, 16 of 76 on the ground. He caught a touchdown pass, 3 for 16. And, Kyren Williams is interesting to me. So, y'all know I faded Kyren Williams this year. And clearly that turned out to be the wrong move, because he had a really big year, but it was a quiet big year. Like he didn't really have those smash weeks that he had in 2023 when he really established himself as the guy, nudging Cam Akers aside. Just was a spectacular season, both running and catching the football. This year it was more understated. And then you look, and he had 1,000, almost 1,300 rushing yards, a boatload of touchdowns, and he only caught a little bit more than 30 passes. So, that remains a thing where Matthew Stafford, even though he's not a mobile quarterback, Stafford doesn't throw to his running backs at a high rate, and this offense in general doesn't throw to their running backs, right? Sean McVay's offenses don't prioritize throwing to the back. So in a PPR league, you can ding Williams a little bit. But again, like Derrick Henry, he's doing more than enough on the ground to justify his elevated draft cost. And Kyren Williams will be a late first round, early second round pick next year as well. Both him and Nacua. There's no competition here in terms of touches in the backfield. And Sean McVay has always been that guy who wants to prioritize a bell cow back. And that's what he's going to continue to do moving forward. So next season, Kyren Williams is going to be sitting there as a potential bell cow back who's going to collect the touchdowns on the ground in a very big way. So, he's somebody to remember as well. On the opposite side, Aaron Jones. You all know I love Aaron Jones, but I'm done. I know I said that prior to this season, and I went back in the well just because of the excitement of going to Minnesota, where it looked like he was going to be the guy. And he really was. He got the majority of touches, but banged up a little bit. No touchdowns to speak of. This Minnesota offense always prioritizes throwing in the red zone. Aaron Jones could have had 5 or 6 more touchdowns this season. He really could have. I even think he was underutilized in the passing game as well. He could have had a lot more in the way of touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, but this is just not how the Minnesota offense operates. They're going to continue to throw it in the red zone. All right, that's how they prioritize this offense. So Aaron Jones is somebody I definitely will fade next year as well. And we have plenty of time to get into that, but I've already started cementing ideas for the draft next year. I told you how I love Jackson Smith and Jigba's value. I love Ladd McConkey's value. I'm hoping for a few more touchdowns there. James Cook. I love the running backs now. I'm coming back around to the running back issue, but it has to be the right running back. It's not going to be Christian McCaffrey. I told you about Saquon Barkley, my issues there as a top 5 pick. I'm not going to draft him as well because of the tush push. He doesn't catch the ball a lot there. Huge workload this year. Guy who has a lot of injury history trouble. So there's a lot of red marks around Saquon Barkley as well. Whereas a Derrick Henry doesn't miss time with injury. So Derrick Henry is the much safer investment than Saquon Barkley if you really break it down. It has to be the right running back. Like James Conner. James Conner's still very productive, even though he did wind up getting hurt at the end of the year. Almost made it through. He's another guy that I really like. Devin Achane. So I'm back in on being open to drafting running backs early next season and going semi-value at receiver with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I love Mike Evans again. Mike Evans and Ladd McConkey. Like, you can have a situation where you can get 2 of those guys to anchor your wide receiver spot and not have to draft a Justin Jefferson or a Drake London. Any of those guys. Like, nobody's drafting Tyreek Hill in the first round anymore. But and then of course at quarterback, Bo Nix. I love Drake London. I mean, hell, even Caleb Williams. I think he's a little bit of a diva. But 21 touchdown passes, I think it was 6 interceptions, made every start, over 400 yards rushing. Like, that's pretty good fantasy-wise. So, I wouldn't shut the door on Caleb Williams either, especially if they hire the right coach. If they hire Ben Johnson, that's very intriguing to me all of a sudden, talking about Caleb Williams. So I'm going to keep an open mind there. Now, let's look at the schedule. The Chiefs playing the Texans in the 4:30 slot, not a surprise. Whenever the Texans are in the playoffs, they're always going to be in that Saturday early window. It's just because of the market. So no surprise there. And then you have the Lions Commanders Saturday night. That's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to that game. Obviously, the Bills-Ravens game is the premier game of the weekend, but this is going to be a close second. I think this is, listen, don't count out the Commanders in this one. This is a team that's playing with a lot of confidence. They're motivated. They have the quarterback who's got that magic pixie dust around him right now. He's just playing great. He's playing clutch. He's doing everything that they expected and more. And you talk about a fantasy stud, Jaden Daniels, might even be the premier rushing quarterback in the NFL now over Lamar Jackson. Rams Eagles will be Sunday at 3. This is a kind of game where you could just feel that the Eagles are going to absolutely annihilate the Rams. That pass rush is going to be a major problem for the statuesque Matthew Stafford. Now, the blitzing Vikings defense, it was picked up by the Rams offensive line, and it didn't really inhibit Stafford as much as I thought it would. Thought that game would be a lot closer, but the Eagles defense is the best unit in the league by far with Jalen Carter up front. This is going to be a big problem for the Rams. I see the Eagles blowing them out. I really do, and I hate to say that as a Giants fan, but I think the Eagles are going to blow out the Rams in this one. And then Ravens-Bills, the blockbuster game of the week. Lamar Jackson, listen, it's time to step up. It's time to win these big games, especially on the road in the playoffs. He's got a checkered playoff history. Y'all know I'm the big Jackson fan. I think the guy's phenomenal. And it really just adds to the farce of when he came out of college in Louisville, and they wanted to make him some front offices thought it best that he should be converted to a wide receiver. Just asinine stuff. But this is the MVP battle between Lamar and Josh Allen. It really should be Josh Allen winning the MVP, and I think there's a lot of voters who won't want to give a third MVP to Lamar Jackson. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but a lot of times, all right, he's 1-2, let's look for somebody else. And it's so close between him and Allen. And I think Allen's had less support offensively than Jackson has, so I think that will sway things and give him the ultimate MVP over Jackson. Both guys, though, are very deserving. But this is going to be an absolute barn burner classic. there's going to be points all over the place. This could be the Bills Chiefs game from a few years ago when they had that unbelievable finish. Mahomes and Allen there. I think whoever conceivably has the ball last could win this game. Like it's going to be that kind of game. So, but anyway, that was just my thoughts on last night's game. It came to fruition what I thought was going to happen with Sam Darnold and my concerns. So we just got to see what's going to happen here in the offseason. Some coaching issues still to be worked out. Deion Sanders contacted by the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy moving on to probably Chicago. And if Mike McCarthy goes to Chicago, say what you will about him as a coach, he knows offense. He teaches offense really well, and that's going to be a nice boost for Caleb Williams. No doubt about it. So we'll have to see what happens there. But anyway, guys, hit that subscribe button. More podcasts will be dropping during the week, so stay tuned for that. Have a great day, everybody.